Terrifying sleepover horror stories that will haunt you. The bedroom door slammed shut all by itself. The lights flicked, but Jake grinned and yanked the door wide. The closet was pitch black. The flashlight beam barely cut through it, showing only hanging clothes. No scratching, no movement. "See?" Jake smirked. "Just your imagination." They laughed nervously, the tension breaking a little. Still, Emily couldn't shake the image of what she thought she saw, something shifting behind the clothes. The clock struck midnight. Sarah's parents still weren't home. Suddenly, the bedroom door slammed shut by itself. The flashlight flickered wildly, and from inside the closet, something began to breathe. Slow, deep, heavy. The kids spun toward the sound, frozen in place. And that's when a pale, bony hand pushed through the darkness. The pale, bony hand stretched out farther, its fingers curling like claws. Sarah screamed and stumbled backward, tripping over her sleeping bag. Jake froze, flashlight shaking in his hand, the beam bouncing wildly across the walls. Emily couldn't breathe. Her chest felt locked tight, her eyes glued to that awful hand. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the hand slipped back into the dark closet. The door slammed shut with a loud bang. All three of them screamed at once. Jake dropped the flashlight, and it rolled across the carpet, landing so the beam pointed at the ceiling. Shadows stretched and danced over the walls, making the room feel alive. "What was that?" Emily whispered in panic, clutching Sarah's arm so tight her nails dug in. Jake shook his head. I don't know. I didn't touch it. I swear I didn't." They stood in silence, staring at the closet. The house was dead quiet again. Only their breathing filled the room. Finally, Jake forced himself to pick up the flashlight, though his hand was trembling. "Okay," he said shakily. We just stay away from the closet. We don't open it again." Sarah's lips trembled. "But what if something comes out?" Emily shook her head. No. We should leave the room. We should wait downstairs until your parents come home." The thought of leaving made sense, but when Sarah tried to twist the doorknob, it didn't move. She pulled harder. Nothing. "It's locked," Sarah whispered, her face pale. "It's locked from the outside." "That's impossible," Jake said, trying it himself. He twisted, yanked, shoved, but the door wouldn't budge. "It's like it's jammed shut." They were trapped. Emily began to cry softly, and Sarah hugged her. Jake paced the room, shaking his head over and over. Okay. Maybe it's just stuck because of the power outage. Maybe. He trailed off, knowing how ridiculous it sounded. Trying to distract themselves, they turned the flashlight toward the window. Maybe they could call for help. But when they pulled back the curtains, they froze. The backyard was completely dark, swallowed by shadows, and standing at the edge of the trees, just beyond the fence, was a figure. Tall, motionless, watching. Jake gasped and dropped the curtain. "Someone's out there!" Emily shook her head quickly. No. It's just your imagination. You're trying to scare us." But Jake's face was pale. He wasn't lying. For the next 20 minutes, they sat huddled together, whispering, waiting for any sign of Sarah's parents. Every tick of the clock grew louder, the silence heavier. The flashlight beam began to dim as its batteries weakened, shadows stretching longer across the room. At one point, they thought they heard the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Slow, careful, almost like someone didn't want to be heard. But when Jake shouted, "Mom? Dad?" no one answered. The footsteps faded. Sarah's stomach turned. What if they didn't go out? What if they never left the house? Emily shook her head quickly. Stop, don't say that. They're at dinner. They'll be home soon. Jake gripped the flashlight tighter. Then who's walking in the hallway? The closet creaked. They all spun toward it. The door was still closed, but the sound was clear. A faint shifting, like clothes moving on their own. Emily buried her face in Sarah's shoulder. Make it stop. Make it stop. Jake, despite his fear, forced himself forward again. He raised the flashlight and pointed it at the closet. The beam quivered, but he stepped closer. If there's something in there, he whispered. I need to see it. We can't just sit here. Sarah grabbed his arm. No, don't open it again. But before Jake could answer, the closet door handle began to twist on its own. Slowly, creaking, back and forth. The kids screamed and backed against the far wall, clutching each other. The door handle rattled harder, like something was desperately trying to get out. The flashlight flickered. The batteries were almost gone. Jake shouted, "Stay back! Don't come out!" though he knew his words were useless. The closet burst open. Clothes flew forward as if shoved aside by invisible hands. The darkness inside seemed deeper, thicker, swallowing the weak flashlight beam. And from that blackness, a face leaned out. White, hollow, with empty eye sockets that dripped with shadows. Emily's scream tore through the room. Sarah covered her mouth with both hands, unable to breathe. Jake stood frozen, the flashlight slipping from his grasp. The figure stepped into the room. The figure stepped fully into the room. Its body was thin, almost skeleton-like, draped in darkness as though the shadows clung to it. Its face had no eyes, only hollow sockets that seemed to swallow the light. Its mouth opened slowly, impossibly wide, but no sound came out. Only a dry hiss, like wind passing through dead leaves. Emily pressed herself against the wall, tears streaming down her face. Sarah grabbed her cousin's arm, whispering over and over, "It's not real. It's not real. It's not real." Jake, Shaw, King from head to toe, lifted the dying flashlight toward the figure. The weak beam hit its hollow face, and the thing flinched slightly, as though the light hurt it. For a second, Jake felt hope. "Stay back!" he shouted, his voice cracking. "Stay away from us!" The figure tilted its head, the hiss growing louder. Then it took a step closer. The floorboards creaked under its weight, though its body looked too light, too fragile to make such heavy sounds. It moved slowly, step by step, its arms stretching unnaturally long as it reached toward them. The flashlight flickered. "No, no, no!" Jake whispered desperately, smacking it with his hand to keep it alive. The beam sputtered, dimmed, and then, with a final flicker, went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Emily screamed. Sarah clutched at her, sobbing. They could hear it moving closer, dragging its feet, the hiss now circling them. Then, suddenly, the bedroom lamp snapped back on. The power had returned. The room lit up brightly, and in that instant, the figure was gone, completely gone. The closet stood wide open, but it was empty. All three kids gasped for air, their chests heaving, eyes darting around the room. Nothing, just the quiet hum of electricity returning. Did we imagine that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Jake shook his head. "No, we all saw it. We all did." Emily was too shaken to speak. She buried her face in her sleeping bag, sobbing. They sat in silence for what felt like forever.